so that they didn't grow up and become a big, big people. But remember, God is a God, like in Genesis 1, who turns dark into light. That's what God is like. So he's allowed Israel to go into darkness, into slavery, so that he can redeem them. God is a God who brings people out of darkness and into light. That's what he's done with Sam. That's what he does with Christians. We're all people who are slaves that God is going to rescue, every one of us. We're all slaves, not to people, but to sin. That means that our love, our desires, the things that we love to do, we follow them, even though we know they're wrong. And that's why I've never met a person who could honestly say, I've never done anything wrong. If you know it's wrong and you don't want to do it, why do we do it? Because we can't help it, because we're slaves. And that's true of all of us. So all of us are slaves, just like the Israelites were slaves. Well, God judges the harsh slave owners, Pharaoh, with all these plagues. Can you remember some of the plagues? I think my favourite one is the frogs. I'd love the idea of waking up in the morning and there are frogs everywhere. Did anyone else? We had a plague this week, actually. Did anyone have the flying ant plague this week? Did anyone else have that? There was a day of the flying ants this week, apparently. We looked it up online because we had flying ants everywhere and they all came out on the same, and apparently everywhere in the country they came out on the same day. That was to help me as an illustration to Exodus chapter 12. And that's on page 69. Is that right? Oh, you can use that one, yeah, that's fine. And Lily's going to start reading from Exodus 12 on page 69, and we're going to start reading at verse 21. So you have to find with your finger, because it's in the middle of the chapter, so it's hard to find. Exodus 12, page 69. Exodus 12 on page 9. And we're going to start reading at verse 21. So see if you can find verse 21. Let's just wait till everyone gets there. That's good. So Exodus 12, verse 21.
Then Moses summoned all the elders of Israel and said to them, "Go at once and select the animals for your families and slaughter the Passover lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it into the blood into the basin, and put some of the blood on top of and on both of the sides of the door frame. None of you shall go out of the door of your house until morning. When the Lord goes through the land to strike down the Egyptians, he will see the blood on the top and the sides of the doorframe, and will pass over that doorframe, and he will not permit the destroyer to enter your houses and strike you down. Obey these instructions as a lasting ordinance to you and your descendants. When you enter the land that the Lord will give you as he promised, observe this ceremony. And when your children ask you, 'What does this ceremony mean to you?' then tell them, 'It is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt and spared our homes when he struck down the Egyptians.' Then the people bowed down and worshipped. The Israelites did just what the Lord commanded.
Child, put your hands up if you're an eldest child. Wow, look at that. Bang. Okay. Right. Or a little lamb. And so they'd get a little lamb to come and live in their house for 4 days, so they got to know it. And when that lamb was killed, they'd put the blood, can you see the man there was doing it? The blood all around the doorframe, so that they knew that house had already had a death. So when the angel passed over, just like you said, the angel passed over all the houses, he saw that house, oh, a death's already happened there, I don't need to do anything here. And so the lamb died instead of the firstborn son. I want you to imagine, could you imagine this? It's time for bed on the night before the Passover, Passover Eve. And all the children are going up to bed, and the eldest son says, "Dad, you are going to doorpost, you are going to kill the lamb, aren't you?" "Yes, son, I'll do that. I'm just, after I've finished watching, I don't know, something, my Netflix series that I'm watching, Clarkson's Farm or whatever I'm watching, I'll finish." "Oh, Dad, you are going to," "Yeah, I will do it." And then, it gets to 10 o'clock and Dad hears a little patter of feet coming down and says, Dad, have you done it yet? Have you killed? No, I'll do it. I'm just watching the 3rd episode. I'll do it after that. Dad, you are going to do it. Please, you are going to do it. Of course he's going to do it. Why would he not? Would he choose the lamb or his son? Okay? And when the lamb's blood went over it, that meant that son could go to sleep safely that night because he knew it's okay. I'm safe. Now that's what Sam has done today. That's what anyone who's been baptized, if you've been baptized, that's what you've done. It's like the blood has been put over so that you don't have to die for the bad things that you've done. Okay? That is be to judge, because when God sent Jesus to die for our sins, imagine that's me. I imagine that's God up there. I've got the wrong things that I've done and said I've thought to all the other people. And all of us have done that. All of us have done wrong things. But Jesus, who was like a lamb. And the thing about lambs is they're like babies. They haven't done anything wrong. And they're white, aren't they? They're pure. Jesus is pure, a pure and spotless lamb. But when he died so that my sins, Sam's sins, all of those who have been baptized sins would go on Jesus. So that now my sins are not on me anymore. His blood is on so that we don't have to worry about Judgment Day. Can you see this was all a picture? This happened in history, but it was a picture of something greater, something real. And the truth is, this wasn't just for Jewish people. This was for anybody. He said, anyone, if you're an Egyptian, you could do this. You could kill the lamb and put it on your doorpost. Anyone could do this. And you could do this as well. So how do you feel about Judgment Day? How do you feel about the day when God comes back? You don't have to be worried. Like that little boy didn't have to be worried if you've trusted in Jesus, because his blood is on our doorpost and it's on Sam's. So you can do that too. So this was all a big picture for us to understand. But it didn't just finish there. What happened after the Passover? Well, we said it. They ate their dinner really quickly that night because Pharaoh, that night when his son had died, said, I want all the Israelites out. Go! And in the middle of the night, they had to go with all their clothes already packed because they knew it was going to happen. And off they went. The whole nation of Israel left their home in Egypt to go on their way back to where they should be, in Israel. But they got to the sea, and there was a sea there. Pharaoh changed his mind again, and he sent his army behind. They thought, we're all going to die. There's going to be a slaughter here. But God did an amazing miracle through Moses. God wasn't surprised. Do you know what did he do? He raised his staff over the sea. Oh, have I got a picture of it somewhere? Oh, we've done that one. Sorry. Can you click me onto the next slide? There we go. And they walked through the sea as if it was just dry ground. Now that reminds us of something, other things that we've looked at in the Bible already. Do you remember at the beginning when God made the world, it was sea, and he brought the dry ground out of the sea. That's how he made the world. But then when people got really, really bad again, he made a flood. So the sea came back over the land, and then the land came back out again. So when land comes out of sea, that's a picture of salvation. And so they're being saved through the water. And as they went through the water, can you imagine this? A wall of water on one side, and a wall of water on the other side, and yet they walked straight through. And how do we know that happened? Because once they got through to the other side, he brought the waters back over and destroyed the entire Pharaonic army, the Egyptian army, destroyed them all. Now, the Red Sea is a picture, this really happened, but this is a picture of baptism. Just what we've just seen outside. Because just as Sam went under the water and came out,